Welcome back, everybody, to His Heartbeat. Yes, this is Sue Coral with a terrible cold, so I sound a little different, but it is me. And I have a wonderful guest, as always, never let you guys down, Cassian Bellino. And so it is so good to have you here, Cassian.
I'm so glad to be here, Sue. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, and you have quite the show. Biblically speaking is great topic, I gotta tell you. And we're all his heartbeat is all about that. So love to hear more about you, where you're from, a little
Yeah.
bit about that, and then we can dive in.
Yeah. Well, about me is I'm the youngest of four. I'm a daughter. I'm single. I'm just out here trying to abide in his word and be a witness to his amazingness. I mean, biblically speaking, I'm sure we'll get into it, but it's living according to the Bible, not just according to today's faith. And I didn't know what that meant. So it's really that journey. But a little bit about me is I was not a Christian. Like I really, when God put this on my heart, I was like, God, like, come on. I say so many problematic things. I surely cannot be your representative. Like Moses had a stutter. At least he was holy. Like I'm out here doing all the things I shouldn't be. So raised in a Christian family, I'm meshed with my family. Some people might think that's a little problematic, but I'm obsessed with my family. I have older siblings. I love my parents. I'm so incredibly lucky and blessed to have them. But
We're
raised
we're the
in,
same way. I
oh
don't
my
think that's
gosh,
problematic. We are a very
I
close
am
family.
it's a wealth to have people in your corner that you can always call, and I'm so grateful for them.
Yeah.
Shout out to them. But I was born in Ohio. Like shout out to the Midwest. I lived in Europe. I lived in California. I lived in Asia. I lived in South America, and we were just moving around for mostly my dad's job, going from Ohio to California. But once I graduated, I was a free spirit, and in no way was I like in a Christian free spirit. I was like, whatever feels good. I want to travel. I want to work in sustainability. So that's why I went to Asia and Colombia. And then, COVID. So everybody kind of hit the reset button. I moved home. And when I moved home, it really was this moment of who do I want to be?
Mm.
And even when I was in Asia, I was like, okay, post grad, who do I want to be? I need to find a good church. So thank God in Bangkok, they had a half Thai, half Christian church, half English church. And the pastor was a couple from Sweden. Like it was the coolest thing. We would sing in Thai and in English. Like it was amazing. But
Love it.
I was so free spirited at the time that I thought I could just kind of demand what I needed. And one of those things was I went up to the pastor, it was the female. And I was like, hey, your church is awesome. But you know what I've always wanted? I thought I was giving her constructive feedback. I was like, I would love if you could give me some context before we got into the verse. I feel like everybody would benefit from, okay, we're going to read from the book of John. John, by the way, is an apostle. He's probably 15 at the time, and they're residing in like the eastern region of the Mediterranean. Would have loved that. And she said, Cass, so kindly, I think you just need to join the Bible study. I'm like, I'm already in it. And she's like, okay, then I think you need to go to seminary. And it really, like, she did her best. I did my best. There's no hard feelings. I don't feel like she failed me as a pastor, but I was feeling a sense of, well, I'm not going to go back to school. Like, I've got a corporate job in sustainability. And so my only option is to be confused at church. And it really was this, like, oh, I know what I need. It's just somebody to answer my questions. But every time I Google it, it's so high level, it's so complicated. It's like I have more questions when I watch a YouTube video and when I go to Bible study to like earnestly study the Bible, it was so emotional. And it was, I think Bible studies serve the purpose of building community and building like a tribe of people to pray for you. But when it's just your local mom or friend or, college leader, those people aren't equipped to help you study the Bible, really just to support you, which is amazing. And we need that. But I was craving studying. So maybe you could say I was cutting corners. I should have just like sucked it up and gone to seminary, but I didn't. I was lazy and entitled and horrible. And so years later, I still kind of am on that path and I'm still like searching for the Lord. But at this point, I'm praying like, hey God, I love my sin, but I want to want you because I feel like it's a good thing. So like I'm Christian, I'm going to church, but like still sinning, not fully in love with God, but I know I should be, but I'm like, I just can't like I'm just not sold because I don't understand like what is so amazing about you. Like I know I should, but the intrinsic desire wasn't there. So I'm praying like, Lord, I want to want you, help me want you. And around this time, my sister had told me a couple times, like, again, I'm a mesh with my family. They're my biggest support system. So one of my sisters was like, you should read the book Crazy Love. And she's like, it will change your life though. And I was like, not ready for my life to change. So I postponed that for so long.
you want cognitive answers, but you don't want heart answers.
Whoa, I don't want to be
Oh.
convicted.
No,
I
I
just
mean
want the
I'm just trying to
truth.
put words to what you're saying. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I think, yeah, being heady, is safe.
Yes,
It can be
perfect word.
frustrating because there's not real clear answers. If there's no mystery in God, there's no God, you know? So,
Yes. Ugh. But I felt like the sense of like, hey, I shouldn't do XYZ because I'm Christian versus I don't want to do XYZ because that takes me away from something I love. And I wanted to get there, but then like push came to shove, read the book, and I was like, and so I ended up reading the book, and it's amazing. Like he does not hold back in this is the faith. You either take it or leave it. There is no picking and choosing. It's phenomenal. And you should be crazy in love with God. And one of the biggest, like one of the quotes that like will never leave my mind is we are called to know God, love others. And I was like, that's it? Okay. So I'm like falling in love with God. God is bringing people and books into my life. I just started like reading all this Christian literature, but not like I read The Case for Christ, changed my life, obviously. Or was it Case for Christ or was it The Cross and the Switchblade about the pastor in New York?
okay.
Oh my gosh, that one is like 100 pages. It's so good. The Cross and the Switchblade. Maybe that was in college. I don't know.
A case for Christ, I think, is more the heady, which is good. It answers questions.
Yeah. And then I read this book called The Book of Longings, which was like a fictional book told from the perspective of Jesus's wife, which is just phenomenal for any woman, I think, to read because it places God in like that husbandry place that we should like
Mm,
seek to him for. It was heartbreaking. And then at the time I'm going through a breakup and there was this clear like before and after with like before I went into all of this with my faith, I was dating him and we were happy. But then we kind of broke up, took some time apart. I go through my spiritual transformation of just like wanting God, reading about him, and I meet back up with this guy to like kind of hammer things out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I been up to? Reading about God. This Jesus guy, he's actually really cool. I think we should talk about it more. And he was like, not on that
mm.
page. He was doing other stuff with his life. And we were so clearly unequally yoked that I was like, I've changed. And so we
Oh,
broke up. God gives me a vision about our breakup. And it was so evidently from the Lord that like you just like get supercharged when you get that type of vision from the Lord. God very clearly, I was like, hey, God, I want to move. I don't know where to move, but if I want to move to Hawaii, these three conditions have to be met. I'm okay with whatever though, because I love living where I'm at with my family, whatever. God meets the conditions. I move out here. And as I move out here, again, this like, I should be who I want to be. I should be a Christian woman. I'm still kind of lukewarm. I don't know anybody out here but like this one girl that I knew from like my childhood and her friends. So I'm still deciding who I want to be. And my sister reminds me, hey, remember that like podcast that you thought about in Asia that like you just need a smart person? And remember, you're still looking for it, Cass. You mentioned it the other day. Maybe you haven't found it because you're supposed to do it. And I so like verbatim, that's what she said. And I was like, no, absolutely not. Like our dad was so like do not be on the internet, do not do anything embarrassing on the internet. The internet lives forever. So I'm just like, me representing the faith, that's ridiculous. Like I'm going to
mm.
embarrass myself. I'm going to misrepresent it. I came up with every excuse in the book. I don't even know anything about podcasting. I don't have anybody to interview. And like truly, I feel like this conversation happened in June. First episode goes live in October. And like within that span, God brings me past, he sits me next to people on planes that respond to me. He literally, I was dating somebody at the time. He meets a bunch of theologians that are willing to come on my show. I meet a girl who's like the friend of the old Bible study teacher of my like who just tells me exactly how to set up a podcast. Like it was just like, what else, Cass? And then the kicker, sadly enough, the kicker that got me podcasting was so she goes, listen, your podcast probably won't succeed. And that's okay. You won't be embarrassed because no one will hear it. But maybe God just wants to hang out with you. And I was
Oh,
like,
that's sweet.
oh, okay. And
That's
like
sweet.
still in my head, I'm like, okay, so if it fails, no one hears it. And I still am technically obedient with God. And I'm just like doing that human thing, like missing the whole point. And so I do it, it takes off. And I think just like the gap that I see is you see experts, you see feelers, and then you see the nerds, which is like the kindest way I could, like the people that just know it, but really lack the translation. The people that are like, the exegetical exegesis of the theosis. And you're like, what are we? What are those words? And then you have people that are like, I feel like this verse means this. It's like both of those, I don't think does what I need as far as when a first century Jew reads the Bible, what context do they know that I missed today? That's simply what it is. And so I talk to scholars and I say, when we read Matthew and Mark and Luke talking about the Legion, my first episode was about like this the demonic possession in Mark, Matthew and Luke. I think it's like Mark 9 or Mark 5. Um, so like demons. Like, and I'm just pulling from Hollywood because all I have is my church education. So he's Legion. So he wants to possess. It's because he wants to kill us, right? Because every scary movie, the possessed person wants to kill themselves. Why the pigs? And instead, you exit that conversation with, well, this was the Jewish view on pigs. This is the cleanliness and the role of uncleanliness. That if I'm a Jewish person reading this, you would have been terrified for Jesus, a prophet, to touch somebody unclean and to be around pigs because that's also unclean. And also, you don't know, but that took place in a non-Jewish Greek region. So somebody that was previously possessed by a legion of demons is now the main evangelist in a non-Jewish realm who just witnessed a miracle, who's the core apostle for a Greek region. That's why Jesus said, go and tell everybody what you said. Whereas when he's in a Jewish region, he says, don't tell anybody what you saw, because then he knew that would kind of kickstart his crucifixion. And you're like, what? That's not ever something that was explained to me in church. And now, not only when I read the Bible, it makes sense. I'm like, okay, so this is where we're at. This is the time period. This is who we're talking to. This is why it matters. But my faith, oh my gosh. Like you fall more in love with somebody the more you get to know how cool they are. And that's just simply what's happened here.
Wow. That's really awesome. So you just started this in October 24?
23.
23. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been going a little over a year. And yeah,
Yeah.
I saw some of the names of the guests on your show. Yeah, they're some pretty well known. We used to use a
Which like
lot.
is God's grace. Like the
Yeah,
fact that I booked Ken Ham is truly like that wasn't me. I'm nobody. I'm not even a scholar. I didn't even study I studied environmental management. Like it is God's grace that I have booked anybody,
but
let alone the big
you know
ones.
what's cool of that is the audience that you draw in. I mean, you have a large audience. You're young. You're maybe younger looking than you actually are when I hear all the things
You'll
you've
never
done. I don't
know.
know. You know, and I think that is so cool that
Thank you.
they're gonna listen because you're like them, right? You're a fellow. I'm guessing you're definitely a millennial, right? You
I think
haven't.
I'm on the cusp, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm right in the middle
Oh,
of like the
that's are you
millennials and the Gen.
26, 26?
I'm 28.
Oh, you're sorry, you're a millennial. I don't know, maybe it
Okay,
differs where
whoa.
you
I
read
thought it
it.
was 96. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't.
No,
But
that's
yeah,
when my son was born. Yeah, and that he's a millennial. My daughter was born in 98. She's 26. And she's a Gen Zer. But
yeah,
you're right. It just depends who you read. It doesn't matter. Anyway, when you're in right in the zone in the middle, I feel like you have characteristics of both. And it's
yeah,
also like who you hang out with. And, you know, because I hang out with people much younger than me. So, you know, that affects anyway.
yeah.
But
I definitely
yeah,
hang out with people older than me. And I was on another podcast and they were talking about the like every single cohort has a different value that they prioritize or whatever. And for Gen Z, it's authenticity and truth. So like that's why we
and
see
I
people like
love
living
that.
their truth and like I feel like this is my truth, but I also kind of have that millennial like the early 2000s was rough for all of us. So like I can relate and it's like that kind. I don't know what the cohort lead is for the millennials. Do you know?
I know. No, I would say,
Trauma.
yeah, there you go. Well, yeah, change, the constant need for change, which you seem to have, and not feeling like I have to fit into a stereotype job, um,
Yeah.
feeling
Yeah.
like I can't. It's more, there's a lot of insecurity. I'm not sure what tomorrow's going to bring, if my world's going to blow up, if, um,
Yeah.
and if I don't, there's no point in getting to a quote unquote career because it won't stick anyway. And so, yeah, they're shifting all the time. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and that affects even their relationships. Whereas
I agree.
apparently Gen Zers are the ones who are saving money, starting to buy homes.
Lucky. Good for
I
them.
know, isn't it crazy? And are looking more for that longer term. Um, yeah, I don't know, it's very interesting, but well, okay, so it sounds like your show is trying to bring in people that can answer some of the questions that you think a lot of Gen Z millennials have. Is that true?
Yeah, and surprisingly enough, I don't really talk to Gen Z or millennials. I'm going to be honest. Like, definitely not Gen Z. Gen Z are probably like my most brutal commenters. I'm not going to lie, but I honestly like, which like whatever. Let them speak. People call me out a lot, and it's really funny because they're right. Like sometimes I'm just like, yeah, they really hit the nail on the head. Like I have a video, and they're like, you look like a McDonald's worker. I'm like, I do. Wow. No, I feel like the people that I speak to are usually stay-at-home moms who are like, I'm trying to lead my family and I don't know my faith. So how the heck am I supposed to lead my children in
Mhm.
faith? And then I
That's
also get a lot of
interesting.
older men. And I wasn't sure why I was getting older men. So I just started befriending some of them. And I was like, what is this? Why are you here? Why are you listening to me? And they basically are like 55 plus, some are veterans. And I think somebody said it was like the first time in their life they were willing to be vulnerable about like where they were with God. You know, you typically have men, and
Okay.
I'm just going to generalize here, like raised Catholic, they live their life, they raise their family, all the things. And then for the first time, they're like, I actually want a personal relationship with God. And logically, I can't do that if I don't know him. So I feel like my approach is very logical. It's very like, what does it say? And then based on that, how does that resonate with you? Because I don't think it'll resonate the same with everybody, which is why the channel itself has leaned Protestant because I think I'm just Protestant, but I'm trying to like bring in, like I just did an Orthodox priest because I'm Russian Orthodox, but I don't practice that because it was Russian and I don't speak Russian. So I brought in an Orthodox priest in English, and then I'm bringing in a Catholic professor, and then I've had a Calvinist pastor on, and even like the scholars don't always agree. But I think that when you take that broadband approach of like, how unfathomable is our faith? Like, if we could have one scholar on that got everything right that everybody agreed with, to me, that shows that God is fathomable, and that wouldn't make him God.
Well, it's funny, right? Because you think, well, just invite Jesus on. But then again, when Jesus spoke, everybody's confused all the time. It's just like,
Exactly.
what?
Exactly.
What are you saying? What? I don't
I feel like
understand.
he'd just like answer it with a question.
Yes, I know. Yeah, for sure.
Because
That's
I think
really
our faith
cool.
is so much more simple than like, was the flood global or local? Was the flood real? Were dinosaurs like I think our faith isn't that. I don't think that's faith anymore. I think that's um literary analysis. And I was so that's something I stumbled with in a lot of these
Mhm.
conversations of like, so literally what's happening? And they're like, you're not supposed to focus on that. Because I was like, Job, real person, allegory, is this a story about a real person or is it made up? And they're like, or you could focus on the story that God is saying. And I think that it's always about like truly submitting to him and him being everything and how he loves us and like seeing that love and being a witness to his glory and his power. Like that's the main message for every conversation that I have, even though nobody agrees on the analysis, everybody agrees on like the core doctrines.
That's true. But I love that you're trying to connect it in a personal way to say, hey, what does this matter to you? Why does this matter? Why does God matter? Why does your faith matter? Why does the scripture matter? Yeah, I love that. That's what we want to do.
Thanks.
I just
Thanks.
had a really interesting experience. I was slightly intimidated because I was invited to teach at this large church in India, but to a pastors conference. And this guy's amazing. He's a young guy. He's so awesome, but somehow he is networked. He has planted churches all over the place, but he brings together pastors every month. They come to a pastors conference, which is crazy, from all different churches. Like if you try to do that here, no way. I mean,
Yeah.
it just wouldn't happen, you know. But they really respect this guy, so they come, and he and they invited me to speak. And I did my conference. It's a new one I have called Thrive, Not Just Survive,
Oh,
taken
wow.
from my own life, integrated with the book of Nehemiah. And so I get done, and the translator comes up to me and he says, "You know, I'm doing conferences all the time." That's what he does, right? He's like, I don't even know if I've done 100, 200, 300. I've done so many conferences. But to tell you here, honestly, this is the first conference, men's conference I went to, that you spoke to their heart.
Oh,
But all these other conferences spoke to their head.
yeah.
And it was really beautiful. And he
Wow.
said a lot of men came up to him and said, "Wow, that really touched my heart. I mean, I really need to work through some stuff in my heart with God." And I just praise him for that, you know, because I think the word is meant to transform our heart so that we, like you said, so we will be deeply in love with God, so that we will, out of that, just naturally overflow to love
Yeah.
others. It's not
Yeah,
a chore, it just happens.
truly. And I think that a lot of people who don't believe in God are like, well, I don't want all these rules and I don't want to be told what to do. And I think that that is a valid reaction to somebody that doesn't understand freedom in Christ and they don't understand the power of like God's ability to change your heart posture and that it no longer is giving anything up because you no longer want it. So you're giving it
Yeah,
away. You're not giving it
yeah,
up, you're giving it away. You're like, take it. I actually, and that happened to me in the middle of this. I was like in Hawaii, partying, going out, all the things, drinking. And I don't think drinking is bad. I think drinking in
right,
excess is
right,
bad. And that's, I was wasting my energy and my money and like I love good times with friends. I love good wine, but it was like excessive and
right.
it was just a waste of my time. And I stopped doing it all of a sudden. I was like, I don't know. Like my friend, I remember she was like, I'm like, what are you doing tonight? And she was like, well, going out, obviously. And I was like, what? And I was like, whoa, why did I react that way? I used to do that. And it was this like moment where I'm like, I've changed. And I didn't even realize it. Like I didn't
Mm,
even like sacrifice, okay, guys, I'm Christian now. I'm gonna stop going out. It's I don't even want to go out anymore. Because why would I?
yeah,
And it's just you now you like make logic of you rationalize, the decisions
yeah,
that are more
for
aligned with
sure.
God because you understand his characteristics. And it's like, you know, if you have that close friend like my sister, she's my best friend, it's like, well, what would Maggie do? It's like because I know her and I want to do like I look up to her. And it's like, well, Maggie wouldn't do this, so I probably shouldn't. And it's the same with God. I'm like, well, God wouldn't do this, so I probably shouldn't either. And I respect God and I want to be like him, so I probably shouldn't do this. And I think you also humble your, I don't want to say like humble your judgment, but you like really humble your ability to be like, A, you're not in control, and B, you don't know best. And I think that once you fully accept that, Christianity is wonderful because it's so much weight off your shoulders.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm just blown away at I never know what to call the Holy Spirit in this aspect because he literally sometimes acts like my press secretary or my my personal, what do you call that? Your personal, you know what
Like
I mean?
assistant?
Yeah. Um, which I desperately need. But I said, that's really disrespectful because you're God. So I don't mean it like that, Lord, but literally, I did not remember I had that, you know, that
Yeah.
message today to prepare for, and you just reminded me. Or I was not planning to go to this place, and driving along, he's like, go there. And then sure enough, it's where I needed to be, and kind of what you said, where you end up with the people on the plane, as if he already, he's your press secretary, or he figured out, okay, the people. And it's really cool. So like to your point, you were saying how people are like, oh, I don't need God, and I don't want to let go of control. And that's sad because it's really because you don't understand, number one, that he is in control. That's the irony
Yeah.
of it. I'm not letting go of control. And I'm like, really, you already have then. Because because we don't control our own lives well, or it's not the best. Like there's a scripture, it's Ephesians 2:10, that talks about how I created you before you were even born. I already thought through the works that I wanted you to do. And I've created you in that way to be able to accomplish that.
Yeah.
And so, he knows 100% what is best for us.
Hmm.
And so when we say, I got this, I'm in control, you're not. I mean, you are for second best, third best, fifth best, tenth best, but
Yeah.
not for what you were actually created, who you're actually created to be, and what you're actually created to do.
It's such an interesting conversation when you just like dissect like what you are in control of. I've been having a lot of conversations with a few people on like open theism and Calvinism and Arminianism, and we don't have to get into those because I don't really know, but it's this element of like what is free will, what is
Yeah,
God's control, all these things, but it's like at the end of the day, and I had this conversation with a therapist of like sanctification, our choices are really just our own. And there's so much that we're not in control of. But one of the few things we can control is A, what we choose, how we act. And I think in that, there's this moment for sanctification that really divides whether or not you're walking away or towards God. And it's like when you sin, because there is the guarantee of sin. There is no moment that there's no human that will be without sin. When you sin, which is the guarantee, afterwards, do you turn towards God or away? And I think that's a choice that we are in control of. And that is the choice that either brings us closer to God or not. And I
yeah,
think that, and I don't fall within the Calvinistic view of God preordains
right.
Christians that go to
Yeah,
heaven and people that go to hell. So I do believe that like when I sin today, I can turn to God and be like, God, I need you. And he's like, cool, this is where sanctification takes place because you chose me. Or I can turn away in shame and God
yeah,
could be like, okay, you did not choose me, you walked away. And, and that'll, either whatever happens after that. But I think that the things that made the crucifixion necessary was our sin. So we need to turn to him towards that because that's what it's for. The sin is so
yeah,
we have a moment to turn towards God and need him.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think even clarifying what I said is that, yeah, I, there are things that he is in control, you
Hmm.
know, my life, the world, etc. But within that, there's lots that he says he gives us authority. For example, he
Hmm.
gives us authority on this earth over creation. He gives us authority. You talked about earlier demons, over that. He gives us authority uh, in our family structures with kids, that kind of thing. He'll give us jobs where we might have some authority. But within that, he wants to come alongside and guide us and show us, I guess, the parameters. That's kind of what I'm envisioning, like
Yeah.
this circle, these parameters. And it's like, yep, stay in that circle, you know. Um, and sometimes they'll specifically say, don't go to that party for one reason or another, or go to that party for one reason or another. But
Truly.
yeah, not every second of our life. He wants us to, we have free will. He wants us to make decisions. He wants us, like you said, to know the word guides us as well,
Yeah.
right? And the spirit guides us. Yeah.
How do you like discern when God closes a door?
That's a good one. Um, yeah, so I think I pray a lot, right? Like, I mean, I have this a lot, like, all right, are we going to continue here with my podcast? Should I
Yeah.
continue? Are you wanting it to stop? I'm going on 4 years, and it takes a lot of time, right? And to me, it's a side hobby, really. It's
Yeah.
not my main ministry, but um, I don't mind it being more so, but whatever God has. So I ask him, Lord, you want me to do this? And I do consult with others to get their opinion. Now, I'd only take it as an opinion, but if I talk to five of my wise friends and they all go, yeah, I really think you should stop. You don't have enough time to do the things you need to do to run Crown of Beauty, then I would take that very seriously, right? But I really didn't get that kind of counsel. It was like, oh yeah, I could see some benefits if you stopped, but I don't know. It's always like that. So I'm like, oh well, that's not helping. Okay. So do I determine it from the fruit, right? That's one way to know. Is there any fruit in this? And that's one way people know. I just interviewed somebody who they were making major bucks. I've interviewed several people like this actually. Their business is going great. And then it just tanked overnight, right at the
Oh,
time where they were wondering or sensing from God there was to be a change, some kind of change in their life. And then boom, nothing, no money, everything. Even the one got down to having going from being really wealthy to having $20, and wondering, are we gonna, I don't remember if they had a house or renting or I can't remember that part of that detail. But anyway, and that was one way to know.
oh my gosh. That is
But
terrifying.
I know, right? No, but it was awesome because they shifted to this ministry that just well, they were their husband, her husband, she went in this ministry. They were working together in the job, and he went into another career basically, but it was kind of a Christian career and made masses of money.
Yeah.
About 5 times what they made before, which is crazy. But so anyway, I'm weighing it out the fruit, and you know what happened, Cass, is that every time I do these, well, for one, people started suddenly, I'm not trying to find people, everybody's finding me. Can I be on your show? Can I be on your show? Can I be on your show? And
Yeah.
I look at their bio and I go, oh, like you. It's like, oh, yeah, this is great. This will be awesome. And then I get together and I have the time of my life, Cass, with you and with all these people. And it's like a highlight of my week. And so I go, okay, is this selfish, Lord? I'm just going to keep doing this because it's stinking fun. And I love the
Yeah.
people that I'm meeting. And I
Yeah.
don't, yeah, and the beautiful thing about podcasts, it's recorded. I have people that are listening to ones from 100 shows ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even if you stopped, it can still be on there. You're still
Yeah.
helping people. So I don't
I feel
know.
like podcasting is just like such valuable work because it's recorded, it's out there, it's on the internet, you own the audio, like it's
Yeah.
you, it's information. But I agree. I feel like God's grace is such a clear signal that that's where he wants you. Like the fact that I keep booking guests is truly a miracle. Like I can't believe the fact that like my Instagram and like the following, I got 5,000 new followers in like a week. Like this is just insanity. That is so beyond my ability to do it on my own that it's like, this is God. Okay, this is what's supposed to be happening. But even like my personal stuff, like, okay, God, should I keep doing this podcast? Because I'm not making buku bucks. I'm not making any
Yeah.
buku
I
bucks,
know
but I
that's the
want to.
thing.
Like if I can make money from this, of course I'll that's about then I get to spend all day doing this, but I'm not. So I'm like, okay, I'll get a job. And I was like, God, let it fall into my lap, which is impossible in this job market. Let the job fall into my lap. And then a job did. And I was like,
Hmm.
okay, cool. I like God, I will go where you want. I will do what you want. but like provide wherever you put me. And like I feel like this has shaped my prayers of like, God, I want what you want, but make it clear that this like wherever you put me, you got me. And the job fell into my lap, and then it was taken away. Like we were
Mm.
like at the moment of signing contracts, and then the guy pulled out, and I was like, God, what is going on? I thought I
Yeah,
was like
that's
reading the
confusing.
situation. So I was like grieving quite a bit because I was emotionally attached to an outcome, but I couldn't help but when I got that rejection that I was like, oh, okay, God, yeah, I missed you, I misread. But clearly there's something else going on because like you know the desires of my heart, you know what I need to feel safe, and you've clearly put me on a path that you want me on. So whatever happens next, like you let me know.
And I don't even think that you misread. I so many times in my life he takes me down a path and it doesn't happen. It doesn't work out. I mean, different men I've dated, for example, before I got married. And I thought for sure, two of them, I thought for sure we're going to get married. It didn't work out. But, but I got to tell you, Cass, the things that I learned and grew from those relationships, I
Yeah,
think were really important to prepare me for my husband.
yeah,
So, I mean, that's just an example, and learning, what you learn through failure is
yeah,
valuable. You learn so much.
yeah. I completely agree.
Learning, I mean, there's probably so much you learned if you sat down and you journal, maybe you have, but and you just said, God, what did I learn through that experience? And
Yeah.
he might help you just unravel that a bit. And yeah, so it can be that. It's just like the disciples, it cracks me up because they were planning to go to Asia. It's where I usually go, but God closed the door. And I just thought that's amazing because these guys were really led by the Holy Spirit. You know what I mean? They really listened to God. They prayed their little hearts out and they listened and they knew how to hear the voice of God. And so I don't know, I think they had that inclination to go towards that direction. And then God said, "Nope."
Right. And you're like, God, I thought you wanted me to spread the word everywhere. And he's like, not there. And you're like,
Yeah.
God, I thought you wanted me to be saved. He's like, not in that way. Yeah.
But
I'm really
had they
afraid
not
that,
done that, right? Had they not put that in the Bible, we all wouldn't know that
yeah,
sometimes God leads you and then shuts a door and he's protecting you.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, that's like why the weight is off my shoulders of like, oh, thank God I'm not in charge. Cause like I would have taken that job and it probably would have been bad for me when God has something way better for me. Like,
Yeah.
thank God I'm not in charge. Thank God I'm not Jesus. I thought that'd be my tagline for this channel, but no one liked it. So I don't say it that much. But thank God I'm not Jesus. Oh my gosh, I'm an idiot.
Oh, I like that title. That's clever. Yeah, well, sadly we're gonna run out of time here, but um yeah, what else would you want to parting words leave with my audience?
I think that I would like to say that it is okay and not blasphemous and not sinful, which maybe I'm just speaking to myself because I used to think this, that it is not blasphemous, sinful, or horrible to say, God, I don't get it. And, ask for wisdom and it'll be given generously without fault. I found that, I was afraid to ask questions because then maybe someone would disprove my faith, catch me in a lie, corner me with like the logic that, unfounded my beliefs. No, it's God. Like, if we believe in a God that did all the miracles of the Bible, he can answer your questions. He has
Yeah.
wisdom. I hope I ask the question so you get your answer, but if not, he still has it. I'm just the messenger, I'm just the facilitator. But if you do feel like maybe you want to listen to me a bit more, Biblically Speaking is available on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, anywhere else podcasts are hosted. But everything about me is on bibspeak.com, bibspeak.com, and that you can buy merch, you can donate, you can listen to episodes, you can follow me on social media. I am so active on Instagram. I'm there every single day posting, so DM me if you want to connect or collaborate. But yeah, I think that the fact that I get to talk about the truths of the Lord and just understand more curiosities and clarify my confusions every day is the joy of my life. And I'm just so grateful that we had time today to like witness that and talk about it and just, enjoy that. Because like how lucky are we?
Yeah, it's awesome. And my tagline on that is don't box yourself in theologically. Spend
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lifetime getting to know God. And so I love that you have these different people, different perspectives come on. And, y'all, that's not heretical to have whatever, an Orthodox or a priest or whatever.
I agree. I
I
agree.
think we just, years ago, the Lord just cornered me one day, and I had a vision of this box, this huge box, and God spoke to me. He said, "You have this nice, pretty theology in this box," and then the lid just blew open, and all this almost like confetti or something came flying out, or fireworks, and he goes, "This is me out here." Okay, and so don't box me in. Always
Yeah.
have that open mind to know and know me more, and let me take you on that journey. And for every person, it's going to look a little different.
Yeah.
It really is. That's why we have these different perspectives, I think, because
Yeah.
there's no human words in any language to adequately describe God.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
just have a lot of different languages, a lot of different thinkers, and through it all, we personally embrace how the Spirit wants us to embrace and understand God in a beautiful way for our lives, right?
Yes.
So I love
Yes.
what you're doing, Cass. Way to go.
Thank you.
Keep it up. And you guys check out Biblically Speaking podcast and or Cassian Bellino online or on do you have a website?
Yes, bibspeak.com.
Okay, bigbibspeak.com. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, or
Like a
social
baby
media.
bib.
There you go. Okay. That's your future.
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. Please share this with others. I think it's a really powerful conversation we had. And hey, the Lord's the first time all day I could talk for 45 minutes without coughing and choking. So I guess God wanted y'all to hear this.
Oh, that is
So
good.
blessings. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a great
Thank you.
week.